actually in Vista, so about 30 miles north of here, on an acre of dirt, and I planted a garden every spring with my mom. And so I have a long history of being connected to gardening and growing food. And then when I turned 18, I moved to LA and went to school and lived in Westwood, so I was completely removed to all things natural. And anyway, I've been there for the past 10 years, and I've been doing research on childhood obesity, specifically with Latinos and African Americans that are at high risk for diabetes. So I'm going to share about my research I did there, and also show a short film that I filmed and produced, and also talk about the food environment. And I'd like this to be an interactive session, so if any of you want to raise your hand and ask questions throughout, that would be perfect. And really my goal today is for each of you to leave with something tangible that you can do in your community, in your home, in your environment, to start to make the changes that need to be made to help reverse the obesity epidemic. And I don't know about all of you, but my particular interest is with Latinos and African Americans that are at higher risk and are facing greater health disparities because of their higher risk of obesity. So would anybody like to share about their background, if they work with an organization, or if you're a student, what your interests are? You can just share freely. Yes?
I actually grew up here in San Diego, out in East County, not the home. Went up to Irvine for undergrad, came back down for grad school. I currently work in Waste in Spring Valley on their Live Well initiative. It's focused on obesity prevention, but within multiple different domains: schools, neighborhoods, public health, healthcare, community engagement. And then the second job is also with the San Diego County Childhood Obesity Initiative that actually makes a countywide approach, utilizing the same type of domains and different work groups to be able to actually overall end up reducing childhood obesity, and then looking at environmental policy changes to be able to do so.
Great, I'm a big fan of the work you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So what is your name?
Jennifer Schumann.
Okay, great. Anyone else like to share?
Well, I'm just here and I picked this workshop because I'm a teacher, and you know, in the schools, we see it so much. I teach high school, and
Where do you teach?
I teach at San Diego Method School. It's a college prep school at Mesa College. So it's a pretty small school. It's only 200, but we live with our kids for 4 years, and we only have about 20 kids in each class, so we get to know them really well. And I have quite a few students that are really, really obese, and just so happens most of them are African American or Latino. Not that all of them are, but I just like to learn a little more about maybe what I can do just for them.
Great, well I think
Being like close to them, what we see in the school kind of changes.
and you have a really unique position as a teacher to make an influence. That's great. Who else is there? Yes.
I'm actually from LA, and I'm thinking about getting my master's in public health and actually coming to San Diego State and then going back to LA, because we do have a problem there, focusing on the Latino community, African American. So hopefully today I get some insight, and love to learn more about what's going on.
Great. And what area of LA are you from?
I'm from East LA, grew up in San Diego, and I went to school at UCLA. So
Great. Cool. Thank you for being here. Anyone else? Yes.
I have 2 degrees. I have 1 degree in nutrition and foods, non-ADA. I used to be a home economic teacher way back when, like 25 years ago. And then I'm also a former cereal chemist with General Mills. So I have seen firsthand how these cereals that are geared towards children are created, and it's very scary. That's why I left. And now I'm getting my master's in Master of Arts in Ayurvedic nutrition, and I'm interested in the childhood aspect of that, which is a very new aspect towards that. So, and I also live in an area of town where there's a very large epidemic of childhood obesity right in City Heights.
In City Heights, yeah.
And my children who get driven to school, and also in City Heights at another school, they see it every day and they ask a lot of questions. So.
Very interesting background, General Mills.
Yes.
I'm glad you came over from the dark side. No, we all need to sit at the table and make changes. That's interesting. Anyone else like to share? Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. This is really a personal journey of mine, and I've landed after really, gosh, I just turned 30, and since I was 18 in college, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and how I want to make an impact in the world. And I started out at UCLA wanting to be a doctor and was pre-med for many years. I worked with the UCLA mobile clinic with the indigent population in West Hollywood, and there was a large population of undocumented Latinos, and I saw them falling through the cracks of the medical care system, and I really wanted to be a part of making that change. And as I went on, I really started to see all the chronic diseases that presented themselves, diabetes, heart disease, were diet related. And so I was motivated to get my master's in nutrition, which I did at Cal State LA, and have moved from there. I worked at the Department of Preventive Medicine at USC within their childhood obesity research center. And so I'm going to present some data from that. But I think each one of you, and it's great to hear about your backgrounds, each one of you has a very unique role to play in this, even if it's just within your own family, even if it's going to policymakers and having your voice heard. But through these last 12 years, I've landed on this very specific topic because I think it really has the potential to make a deep impact in making the world a better place, which is kind of abstract, but more specifically, it has an impact on reducing disease risk among those that are at higher risk and reducing health disparities, which is, those that are at higher risk, I feel like that's where I want to go and be a part of. Those are the individuals, because of education or economics or environment, are getting a beating even harder from this nationwide problem of childhood obesity. So without further ado, I'll get started here. So I'm going to talk about childhood obesity a little. I'm going to share about my experience with the food environment in Los Angeles, which I'm still learning about San Diego, so if any of you have anything you want to shout out about San Diego in particular, I'll show my film, and I'll also talk about solutions at this point. I don't want to leave all you guys depressed. So Olivewood Gardens is a very new garden and learning center in National City that I've been working with as the research coordinator, and I'll share about what we're doing down there. And great. So this, I'm not sure of all of your background, but this gives you an overview of childhood obesity. And this blue number here is actually the most recent data from NHANES, looking at obesity. So it's above the 95th percentile. And so it's really increased. 1999 to 2004, we see through time there's been a huge increase. And some of the one of the biggest statistics that is quoted is that childhood obesity has tripled in the last 30 years. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that, so you can see how that breaks down. And even more specifically, childhood obesity within Latinos and African Americans, they're at even a higher risk. And that puts that population at higher risk for developing chronic diseases. So I'm going to jump right into the research that I did for 5 years with the Childhood Obesity Research Center. We had funding from NIH to do 16-week nutrition and physical activity interventions, which at that moment I thought, this has got to be the answer. If we can test this and evaluate it and prove that nutrition education can impact this population. We did really specific clinical measures with them, so we had them stay overnight in the county hospital, and we did an oral glucose tolerance test, checking out their function of their pancreas and some other things. Basically, we were looking at a crystal ball, seeing into the future of their risk for diabetes. We were able to look at insulin secretion from their pancreas, and that showed us, are they likely to develop diabetes in the next 5-10 years? It's a much more powerful piece of information than overweight, because someone can be overweight but not necessarily at higher risk for diabetes. So we measured these kids before and after our 16-week intervention. We did hands-on nutrition and cooking classes, an hour and a half a week. We bused all the kids in from South LA or East LA and brought them to the Ivory Tower Research Center, which is not the ideal sustainable model, right? But when you're doing research, we were going for what's called an efficacy study. So we want to find out if we give all of these kids all the resources that they can have, and we can change their nutrition behavior, does that affect their overall